Hello and welcome to my brand new podcast. I'm Nicky Raby and I'm thrilled that you're joining us. I do lots of things. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In this podcast, I want to talk about success, but not in the traditional sense. I want to bring you conversations that discuss success, what it means, and how there are many different versions. We're going to be talking about business, branding, becoming visible, saying no, saying yes, and how you can create a thriving portfolio career doing more of what you love and less of what you don't. Sometimes there can be a certain mystery around the online world, so I'm going to be asking my guests how they started and grew, how they get paid, how they stand out, and how they create success on their terms. As always, please check the show notes for all things we mention and come and say hi over on social media at Nicky Raby or via my website nickyraby.com/podcast. In today's episode, I talked to Jessica Killingley, who is a publishing coach and consultant who has spent 20 years working in the UK publishing industry. During that time, she's worked for a number of major multi-award winning UK publishing houses, working with hundreds of authors and creating countless bestsellers. Now, if you are a business or a brand, I want you to listen up because in this episode we talk about how writing a book can really leverage what it is that you have to offer, even though we are in a massive digital age, of course. I have a second book in me which is yet to be written, but after listening to this episode, I know that I need to put pen to paper or fingers to laptop and get it done. There's so much great value in this episode. I hope you enjoy it. Morning, Jessica. How are you?
Hi, Nikki. I'm great. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Hey, you're welcome. I would love for you just to start and say who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, my name is Jessica and I am a publishing consultant, which I spent 20 years working in the UK publishing industry. I was a marketing director. And when I left, it wasn't what I thought I was going to do. It took me a while. Well, not too long actually, but it wasn't when I left, it wasn't what I thought I was going to do. But so now I mainly help entrepreneurs who want to write and publish a book to use as a marketing tool to grow their business. So that's sort of the main meat of what I do.
So most people will say, oh, I bet as soon as you say your job description, oh, I've always fancied a book, writing a book, but I've just never got round to it. Why is a book so important in this digital age?
Well, it makes me laugh just to say that people do always say that to me. I've always really, really wanted to write a book. It's like, really? Have you?
Yeah.
Haven't you written it then? So a book is so why is it an important thing in this digital age? Because it is just the most wonderful calling card for somebody to establish their authority in their field. It's a great way for people to recognise them as an expert on their subject. It's a really good calling card if you want to start to get speaking engagements. It's a great way of getting more eyes on your business. And it's just a great way of people getting to kind of know, like, and trust you, which obviously is like, the buzzword of online internet marketing.
Yes.
But it's, the other side of it, obviously from a business point of view, it makes a lot of sense to do from your business, but also the personal challenge of just going, because so many people say, oh, I really want to write a book, the kind of 5% that actually do it, it's like,
yeah,
well done. I always think it's like running a marathon. People always talk about doing it, but then when you've done it, when you've written the book, you now have carte blanche to be smug for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And I self-published mine in December 2014, and I still feel slightly smug. And we were just saying earlier, I sold 2 copies of the book when I was in labour, and that was another confirmation of the smugness.
And so you've just made a perfect also example of something I forgot to say, which is it's a great passive income stream.
Yes.
While you're pushing a human out of your body, you've got the cash registers chinging in the background.
Yeah, you're paying for that taxi home, you are having a nice lunch, it will be great. So when people come to you, what are the challenges that they have? Why are there so many stumbling blocks, I guess, in terms of actually putting pen to paper?
I think the biggest stumbling block is the mindset thing around it. Most people will say that their number one reason for not writing a book is they haven't got the time. And which is when I step in and tell them that they're talking bollocks. Because time isn't, as you know, in any kind of, within coaching or anything, time isn't a reason, it's an excuse. It's because you haven't you haven't given it the right priority. Because if you really want to do this, then you will find the time for it.
Yeah.
If you look at, it's like, do you want to write a book, or do you want to watch Game of Thrones?
Yes.
But what's underlying that, I think, as well, is just that fear of, what if it's not good enough? What if nobody likes it? What if, nobody reviews it on Amazon? What if, the other really big one, that kind of imposter syndrome, who am I to write a book? Like, never mind that you might have been working in this field for 1, 2, 5, 10 years. Who am I to write a book? Or another good one is, well, there are already lots of other books out there on that subject. To which I say a quote that the lovely Jay DeSelna from Simple Green Smoothies said, which was, there are no unique messages, there are only unique messengers. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, really important, is that, yes, there might be a certain formula to, like if you're a coach and you want to write a book and, you think about the model that you take your clients through, but the way that you do it is completely unique. And the results that you get from your way of doing it, the transformations that you get for people, is completely unique. And to answer the question of, well, why me? Because, one, why not you? I mean, seriously, why not you? And two, because if you're helping people, I mean, I always think if one person is going to benefit from your book, if one person is going to be transformed or entertained or educated or enlightened or whatever, then you've got a responsibility to do it, because you're going to help people. You're going to transform that person's life. And if you can do it for one person, then you can do it for thousands of people. Yeah. So it is helping people get past that mindset block in the first instance, I think. Yeah, definitely.
And sometimes it's a mammoth task as well, that sometimes there's that quick thing of like, well, can't I just put a picture on Instagram, or can't I just write a little blog? And how am I actually going to make this happen? But it's a brilliant personal task to take on, because you do feel like once you've done that, you can do anything, because it's a work in progress, very much so. I had definitely 2 editors going back and forth, and some bits were very easy, but there were quite a few ugly cries along the way as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the other thing is like, the first draft is going to be crappy. I mean, that's a kind of truism across everywhere, and I think people are kind of surprised by that. There's a lot of process stuff, and that's one of the reasons why working with an editor or a coach or a consultant like that can really help you, because there are processes to the thing, and it's actually the more planning that you do up front, and the more work that you do on your outlining, and the more work you do in thinking about, well, what is the objective for this book? Like, why am I writing it? I'm writing it because I want to get speaking engagements, or I'm writing it because actually I want to sell the group program, or I want to get my membership course. If you know that up front, then your objective is fixed. You know what the book needs to deliver. You then work out what the value proposition of your book needs to be. What is the transformation? What is the promise that your reader is going to get from it? Then you outline it. And when you've chunked it down, when it actually comes to sit and write, it becomes much easier. You don't have to start at page 1 and write until you go to the end. Yes. You can go, okay, today I'm really feeling it about mindset. So I'm going to pick up that Post-it note or that index card, and I'm going to write 1,000 words. And actually, do you know what? I wrote a blog post about this last month, so I'm going to use that blog post as my framework, and I'm going to just compare. So actually, people have often already got quite a lot of stuff that they can start to use. And I work with a lot of clients, and I've just been working with an American client at the moment, actually, and it's hilarious, because she was like, I'm never going to write more than about 15,000 words. And we've just got her past the 40,000 mark, and she isn't finished. And she was like, I had no idea I had this much to say. But when something comes to me and I'm editing it, I will look at that chapter and I go, this is really, really great, but could you actually write a bit more about that particular point?
Yes.
And could you write this about here? And actually what you're trying to say is this, that's probably better in chapter 3. And once you start to sort of sit alongside with somebody and give them that kind of guidance, then those words come a lot easier. But even if you're doing it on your own, it is that work you do up front to sort of map it out, outline it, chunk it down, brain dump it onto lots of post-it notes.
Yeah.
Basically, if your like your workspace doesn't look like one of those kind of serial killer kind of dens with lots of bits of paper, or your dining table,
you don't have a business.
Family go, oh my god, we've got to go out for pizza because there's nowhere to eat. If that's what your workspace is looking like, then you're on the right track. Actually, somebody in my group gave me a really great piece of advice. What they do is they pin a washing line in their house, and so they peg the kind of topics onto the washing line, so then they can move them on the washing line to reorder the structure of their book, which I thought was like, I know most people use Scrivener, but I'm liking this kind of like sort of industrial revolution version of it.
I imagine that all my topics in different buckets, and I started from a place of like, what do I actually know about? Because there's nothing worse than trying to write something about that you vaguely are kind of only dipping your toe into, whereas if you start from that place of, I actually know quite a lot about this, or this is something that people are missing, or whatever, that's really helpful. So how did the transition from you working in a company into entrepreneurship happen, and what's it taught you?
That's a really great question. I think the transition happened. I left. I was sort of, there were lots of different reasons why I left. I'd been doing it for 20 years, and I was at that kind of crossroads in my life where I kind of thought I either want to do more or I want to do less. My son was starting school. I looked at what our life was going to be like with 2 full-time working parents who didn't work near school, trying to juggle the scheduling, and on Thursday he's going to go here, and on Tuesday he's going to go here, but if I get a cold and like all that kind of, and I just thought, oh my God, I can't be asked with all of that. It just looks exhausting. Yeah. And that was the catalyst to start to think about, well, how could things be different for us as a family? And at that point, I had no clue that I thought that I could start a business, because I just didn't give myself the permission to even dare think that. I thought, well, maybe I could freelance and just do, try and pick up some little bits of marketing work here and there. I was a marketing director, so, I've come from a marketing background. And I thought that because I'd already made this big decision to stop working, I'd used up my, universal points of
right,
and that the idea that I could do something else that was like a kind of get out of jail free card, no, I'm not allowed to do that. And I was like, well, if I can earn like a third of what my old salary was, then that would be okay. And then
I hear that all the time, actually, from clients, like, if I can just pay my bills, then I'll be happy. And I was like, God, that's so not motivating.
I know, but I was like, well, I my whole life I joke about being really lazy, which I am, but I have also had like a really strong work ethic all my life, in terms of I will always go and get a job and do whatever. And I was like, if I have to work in Waitrose, I'll go and work in Waitrose, and I might enjoy that.
And think of the discount.
What are you cooking tonight?
Right. I'm just rubbing this shoulder of lamb with aromatic spices already. Yeah.
So when I stopped, I didn't think like, that whole thing about permission is a big thing for me. Like, I think we all, particularly as women, we all feel like we need permission to do stuff. And I very, very luckily, because I come from a little bit of a coaching background, and I suddenly, before I go into that, so I started to think that I was going to do some freelancing, and I started to have some conversations with people, and I quite quickly went, oh my God, this is going to be awful. This is absolutely, I am going to sit around waiting for the phone to ring and be completely beholden to other people's timetables, other people's schedules, scrabbling around for bits and pieces of work that I don't really enjoy doing. I can't do this. I should maybe look at doing something a bit more proactive and taking a bit more ownership. And that was for me a massive moment, of one of those moments when actually you realize that you're allowed to listen to the voices in your own head more than you listen to other people's voices. Because until that point, the big anxiety about leaving my job was people were going to go, well, you're throwing away all that potential and, 20 years of a career. Like, why are you chucking all of that away? And then I realized, well, hang on a minute, I'm allowed to listen to me. I don't actually have to listen
Yes.
to mostly imaginary people. I have a lot of imaginary conversations.
They're so loud though, aren't they? Those
I know, they're shouty. They are really, really shouty. And so every now and then you get those moments of kind of intuition where you just go, oh no, I'm going to listen to that, which was the thing of like, because I come from a little bit of a coaching background, I go, well, if you believe in the coaching, which I do, because I think coaching is amazing, go and get a bloody coach.
Yes.
Which, was a real sort of godsend and savior. And I found a coach who was like, yeah, no, that's fine. Let's build you a business. And in our first call, she was like, oh, you should really help people write and publish books. And I was like, no, I'm done. I need a break from publishing. No. Actually, what I said was, I couldn't possibly do that, because apparently 20 years didn't make me an expert. That wasn't enough.
Oh. Isn't it funny what we convince ourselves of?
I know.
I had it with acting, like, oh, now I'm a mum, then I'm probably never going to work again. And I was like, and I actually believed that. Now I've done that, I won't be seen. And then last year I had my best acting year in 25 years. And I just really underestimated what I could do. And it's so annoying. But now I've seen it, I'm now like, oh, okay, right, what else can I do then?
Well, this is exactly, I think this is such an amazing thing, that actually when you can get a result in one area of your life, you then go, oh, well, what else can I do? And that's really, really interesting. That was really, so this is really bizarre, because actually I had this when I'm a kind of really sort of lazy runner, but I do run a bit. And I just gave myself a challenge when I was on holiday once, because I was going, oh God, I really want to go out for a run. And I thought, oh, with that mindset, you're never gonna go out for a good run. So I thought, right, I'm going to tell myself I'm an amazing runner, I can do it, blah blah blah. And I've literally, in the last sort of year, I've taken 5 minutes off my 5K running time, which is
wow, that's really good.
Purely from just telling myself I'm a fast runner. So I was like, wow, what else can I get my brain to believe if I could kind of like trick it into doing that? And so I was like, oh well, let's see. And so it was that thing of like, and it's partly working with other people, it's partly believing in yourself enough that you will invest in yourself and you will get the help. I think we have a terrible failing to think that getting help is cheating.
Yes.
And I think what a lot of people who won't work with coaches, they often say, well, I can't afford it. I'd love to, but I can't afford it. But I think that there's a real underlying thing in there, which is that you think, oh, I should be able to do this by myself. And it's like, well, would you take your own teeth out in dental surgery?
Oh my goodness, can you actually imagine doing that? That just, yeah. I mean, I'm not.
We're really bad. We're really bad at doing that, I think. And it's like, but actually, it's what really smart people do. It's like, get help.
And I really realise now that time is so valuable to me, and how I can sometimes feel very overstretched in, that I do work in town sometimes, but a lot of the time I work from home and I have a small child, and feeling like those pockets of time in your day are always taken up with something, that if somebody can help me to get to my end result quicker and more streamlined, and not let me sit in that overwhelmed state for too long, which is completely stifling, all the better. I'm signing up. I'm doing it.
Definitely. And also there is a lot of, there's a lot to be said by, following somebody who's gone a few steps ahead of you, because they know that path, and they know the routes that you don't need to bother going down, because whatever your journey is in terms of entrepreneurship, it's not a straight line from A to B. It's one of those crazy like brain spaghetti squiggly lines.
Yes.
And if anyone can say to you, actually, you know what, don't go down that cul-de-sac, here's a shortcut, like take it with two hands. Don't make
absolutely. That's why I'm always so candid on my Facebook lives, like, here's another mistake I've made, because I would much rather share it rather than people kind of avoid that sort of thing.
That's absolutely true. And I think for me, because to begin with, I was really resistant about doing the kind of publishing thing, and I was sort of just setting up as a sort of business and marketing coach, because that was what I did, that was my background, I understand that. But I realized that I was struggling to find stuff to talk about, which obviously you can tell I don't have that problem. But I was like, well, why is this so hard? Why does this feel like I'm pushing uphill? And you know, in the background, my coach was just kind of patiently drumming her fingers on the table. And I was at an event, and somebody sort of made this throwaway comment. I think we were talking kind of about like ideal clients or something, and they sort of said, oh, well, you know, if you don't know that, then why are you even doing this? And I was like, oh my God, why am I even doing this?
Yeah, and I think everybody has those moments of like, I don't know what this is. I feel stuck. How am I going to actually move forward? But I think it's just about taking that first step and trying it as well. That, you know, before you got your first client working with them, you didn't necessarily know what that experience was going to look like. And once you had one under your belt, you were able to tweak it and move it forward.
That's totally it. And I think the other really, you know, the lesson that I learned as well is don't be afraid to course correct. Don't think people are going to think I'm stupid. People are going to think I'm messed up. Partly don't think that because actually nobody is really looking at you. You know, like nobody is paying any attention to you. And that was one of the things I found quite comforting was when I first started doing Facebook Lives. I just assumed that nobody was watching. I mean, because they weren't, because I was, you know, I was only just getting started.
Hi, guys.
And the minute I just assumed that, it became much, much easier because I'm just talking to myself. I'm just, you know, like howling into the abyss here. And it was, you know, like I cut my teeth doing it to a non-existent audience, which was really good. So there wasn't anyone to watch me doing it really, really badly. So I think that, you know, actually I'm really, really glad that I started off doing not the wrong thing, but just not quite the right thing.
Yes.
And I felt my way into it. And, you know, and who knows, like in a year, my business probably will look very different to how it does now. But, and I think that's okay. I think it's all right to just like go, oh, let's have a stab at this, shall we, and see where we get to.
Yeah. And how have you made like the quick progress that you have? What have been the tools or techniques or mindset shifts that have just really helped you go, all right, let's do this?
Actually, one of the most powerful ones was finding sort of hypnotherapist because I worked with her because when I was sort of still doing kind of business and marketing coaching, she was my client and I worked with her because I was helping her transition her physical practice into an online business. And she was like, oh, you know, if you ever want any hypnotherapy. And I was like, well, no, I'm all right, thanks. Because, you know, I'm not like scared of driving on the motorway or I don't need to give up smoking.
Yeah.
And then I was working on her copy with her on her website and I was like, hang on a minute, can you do this? And she was like, well, duh, yeah, that's what I do. Because it was all about, a lot of it was about sort of going from good to great and how it was more to do with kind of, you know, confidence and competence and productivity and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, hell, sign me up. I mean,
tick.
Exactly. And actually the beginning of it was just literally like using her MP3, which was something. So I've literally listened to this every single night for over 6 months, like come hell or high water, drunk, Christmas Day, you know, I go to sleep with her she stayed at my house quite recently, which was really weird because I was listening to her on my headphones going, she's in my downstairs back bedroom. And she said,
then you kind of go, is it weird if I invite her in to do it live?
I know, she'll come and perch at the end of your bed. I was like, that's quite creepy.
Yeah.
So that and then obviously working with her one-to-one. And the thing that I found that was so useful was because once you start, you know, there's all the kind of neuroscience behind it, but once you start making those new neural pathways about you know, reinforcing positive behaviors, I found myself things moving much more quickly because I stopped second guessing myself.
Yes.
And I just was like, when you have that thing of like you're about to send an email and you just sit there for 10 minutes going,
and even when you press send, you have to look away.
Exactly. Because actually, you know, I've got a post-it note written on my wall that says, what's the worst that can happen? And now I've also got a post-it note on my wall that says, how hard can it be? Because really effing stupid people can do this. Which is not how I imagine. But so working with her to kind of just actually have that, and we talk a lot about moving you through those states where you start, you're unconsciously incompetent, and then you're consciously incompetent, like you know what you don't know, you know that you're a blooming idiot. And then you move through to that point where you're consciously competent, which I kind of feel like I'm at now. Like I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm good at. And obviously then, in that moving into your zone of genius way, you get to being unconsciously competent. And that's when you're just like rocking it in your sleep. And, that's the holy grail to work with. But I did really, really find that massively helped with that mindset thing. And actually, working with her on a one-to-one basis as well, it was actually, I thought it was just going to be like, I lie on the floor in my office and she sort of talks to me in her nice. It's quite funny because she's a lot posher when she does the hypnotherapy than when she actually talks to me.
Oh, is she?
She's got a posh voice. But actually, she will make me go away and have implementable actions. And like I have to text her to tell her that I've done it. Yeah. And sometimes it's tempting to go, okay, well, my action is that I'm going to get up at 6:30 tomorrow, just so that I can have to text her at 6:30.
Yeah, or I've just been in the shower. I've done it.
That's the stubborn motivation. So that really, really helped. Just doing that thing about being visible and being authentically my own voice helped, because people then start reacting to it. And when people start resonating with what you're putting out there and saying nice things about you, going, oh, Frank, that video was really helpful, or you made me laugh. That was really amazing, because then you suddenly think, oh my God, I'm not just some lone muppet in a box room. I actually do have something of value to share, and I have and people like the way I share it. And once you get that little nugget of sort of not success, but just a validation, I guess.
Yeah,
and that keeps
so
you going.
key, actually, because I think it's so lovely and warming to hear your humour come through what you do as well. And I think sometimes people can feel like when they become an online entrepreneur, or when they're in business, they suddenly have to become a bit shoulder padded and kind of stern, or a bit kind of just an alter ego. And actually, when you bring your whole self, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm never going to turn up to a coaching session without a bra on or anything like that. Like, I'm going to brush my hair, but I am going to be my whole self as well. And when you have that sense of being who you are, it just really puts people at ease.
Definitely. And also, it's actually very efficient, because you're not wasting time talking to people, marketing to people who don't align with that. And I very much I'm sweary and shambolic. If you can't deal with that, jog on. And I don't have to sort of spend, and we were talking about this earlier, it's the thing, I'm lazy. So I can't be bothered taking the time to write copy in my emails that I feel have a particular spin on them. Now, I've spent 20 years copywriting. I can write in lots of different voices, but it's hard work. Writing in my own voice is much easier. And my top tip for you, for anybody out there, is email subject lines, always better if you're a little bit drunk. Trust me, open rates through the roof. Anyway, but that's
like that smoky eye makeup. It's always better, like after a few wines, where you're like, I really do look like Kate Moss now, and it's better in the morning.
Yeah. But that thing of, people will either resonate with you, and then you don't waste your time trying to kind of talk to people, convert people who aren't in your tribe, who don't, there will be a lot of people that think I'm too gobby, I'm too sweary, I'm not formal enough. I was lucky because, I came from a corporate background that actually publishing isn't massively formal and corporate.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have survived in law and banking. I mean, for many, many reasons, but that aside. And so, and the other thing is, I was saying to you earlier, I'm quite old. I'm 44. I don't really I feel comfortable in my own skin, and I've done the mindset work to feel comfortable in my own skin, and so I just sort of don't want to waste my time pretending to be something that I'm not.
Oh, it's so exhausting.
Because then when you make those connections with people, they're so real and they're so amazing. And the one thing I never thought would happen when I sort of started this journey is that, oh my God, you'd make amazing friends, like online amazing friends.
Well, it's like you cut through, you cut through when you're at school, you're like, oh, that person's got a coat like me, or that person likes the same kind of trainers or boy band or whatever. And actually I totally disagree with the notion that like, oh, I've made all my friends now. They keep popping up and brilliant people.
You just know that like somebody uses the same Tina Fey gif as you. That's it. Like I would,
going to the grave with that person. Yeah, blood brothers, absolutely, all the way. So in terms of books that have helped you, what are your go-tos or things that you come back to?
My gateway drug, when I sort of first discovered kind of coaching and personal development, was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is sort of a bit of a kind of, sort of godfather of it all and textbook of it. And
could definitely be used as a lethal weapon. It's huge.
Yeah. Well, funny you should say that, because one of the reasons it sort of cemented itself in my brain so much was weird fact about me is that I like boxing, and I was training for a boxing match when I was reading, and I'm not a morning person, and I was getting up and going to the gym. I was actually training twice a day because like the thought of standing in front of 200 people while somebody hits you in the face is quite motivating to sort of actually do it. And I was getting up at 6 o'clock every morning to go to the gym before work as well as after work. And on my tube in, I was reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I think my brain was at a point where it was open, because I was taking this sort of big personal challenge on in terms of the boxing thing. My brain was open to kind of really receiving the message, because, you can read things at different times in your life and they don't always resonate. But even just that thing of begin with the end in mind, I think is so powerful, because we go through life without setting those intentions of, well, where do we want to be? Like, and when I ran a team at work, they always used to laugh at me because I was always sort of trotting out these kind of truisms as a joke, and people used to throw stress balls at me across the office because I was like, make a stumbling block is just a stepping stone in disguise.
And here's my T-shirt with it written on.
And if you're going to climb a ladder, make sure it's leaning against the right building.
Yeah.
I mean, when I left, they made me a pull-up banner of all the things that I said, but they were mainly sweary, so I won't say what they are. But I have an entire like promotional banner of my swearing.
Yes.
But so 7 Habits, I think that thing, it was that realization that you're allowed to work out where you want to be.
Yeah, and not just wait and see. I can't bear that phrase. We'll just see what happens. We'll just wait and see.
I know.
And actually, what you're waiting for, sometimes the people who are making those rules are not aligned with you.
Totally. And you then get into that trap of just going, I don't like what I've got. I'll just suck it up.
Yeah, because I should just be grateful for what it is that I've got. Yeah.
And that's a really interesting thing about being grateful, because wanting things to be different or better doesn't mean that you're not grateful for what you currently have. Like, I was grateful to have a really lovely job with really lovely colleagues, and wanting things to be different didn't mean that I was turning my back on that gratitude. It's like there is no end to gratitude. It's like
It's like if you've got a great relationship, why shouldn't you want to have a great career as well? Because frankly, spending, 24/7 with your partner, not earning any money and not being in the best possible headspace, I mean, you're not showing up as your best self either.
No, absolutely. I think it's that thing you here kind of truth bomb. You are allowed to be happy.
What? Oh my!
It doesn't have to suck.
Yeah,
like,
and you can. It's like we're taught this either or. Like you can be successful and ambitious, or you're just a bit of a meanie. And it's like, no, you can actually do all the things. Like we were talking earlier about the different kinds of income streams. You can offer more than one thing. You can open a bit more of a varied buffet for people to choose from. You don't just have to. I had this with a client the other day, and she was trying to sell this huge high-end program, and she was like, nobody's buying it. So I was like, well, just slice up the program of whatever it is that you're doing and offer those kind of little tasters. And she was like, I never thought about that. I'm going to do that. So, yeah. So a big old question, just to finish with, where would you like to be in 5 years' time?
in 5 years' time, I would like to have disrupted the publishing industry. Now, that sounds like quite hard work. One of the things that I've realised why I'm doing the right thing, I mean, again, something that we were talking about earlier, is that you realise that you're sort of on the right path when you look back and go, oh my God, everything I've done up until this point has led me to here.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes me feel like, okay, I'm on the right track. One of the things that I really love about what I'm doing is the thought that I am facilitating other people put stuff out into the world that is going to help thousands of other people.
Yes.
And that ripple effect, that if I can help somebody write a book that then really impact loads and loads of people and transfer, and the majority of the clients that I work with are women, so there is an element of like, actually it is a female thing of like, I want to help women help other women.
Yeah.
And the idea that I've never wanted, throughout my kind of corporate career, I never wanted to necessarily be like top dog, the one in charge. I quite like being the power behind the throne. Yes. I quite like being the person that's sort of beavering away behind the scenes, helping people do the best job that they can do.
Yes.
And I like that as being a manager. I liked creating an environment for people to do their best work. And so I think, if I can point to having launched somebody's sort of really launched somebody on a platform in their career in terms of kind of, gone on to, I look at somebody like Denise Duffield Thomas, who I find really, really inspiring, the way that her mission is to, by empowering women to have kind of like successful, profitable businesses,
yeah.
She knows that those women are going to go on to basically change the world.
Yeah,
and that I find that so inspiring. And so I think to be able to be somebody that can help people to do that. So if you want to change the world,
get writing your book.
Give me a call. I'm gonna pin your superhero cape onto you for you. That's what I want to do. And I quite like to do it from North Norfolk, if that's okay. That's
so nice. Yeah, one of my first acting jobs was in Norfolk by the sea, and it was so nice, and it was just full of like really supportive elderly people who were like, "You are wonderful, you are fantastic." And as a plucky 21-year-old, I was like, "Yeah, I am great."
That's me. I'm going to be a supportive elderly person. That's what I like to be.
And the cakes were phenomenal. I think I put on about 2 stone.
Yeah, it is a good. Go to the Victoria and have Victoria sponge for that kind of Victoria squared effect. Did I do a word of the year? I don't know. I did one that was jokey, but it was mainly sweary, so we won't go into that. But I would like to be an expensive, eccentric genius.
Oh yes.
That's what I am.
Very expensive.
Well, I think I probably am quite expensive, because actually when I work with people, like the level of, it's not just sort of doing that thing of, okay, this is what you should do. Well, if you're getting into the weeds on somebody's book and you're really like getting under the hood of it, that's hard work. And I don't, I can't do it for a lot of people. I can't work at that level with a lot of people.
And you're bringing all your experience to the table. That's the thing, especially when it's like part 2 or the new career chapter or whatever. You sometimes, especially with clients I work with, they feel like it's about starting again. So they'll go, right, I'll go back to basic prices. But it's like, you don't need to. You're bringing all these, that you're never starting from scratch.
No, that was a big learning, and that was a big realization. And obviously, of course, when you start, you massively undercharge and all that kind of stuff, and you have to. And I think that's fine, because I think you have to find your feet. But then you have to get to a point where you go, you know what, I have to work out what my value is and what my worth is.
And I need new tights, so it's like,
yes,
do this.
The children need shoes.
Yes. And I know that when I'm not in an abundant situation in my head or in my bank account, I'm not serving in the best way I need to. What we do, it takes a lot of work and things. So anyway, people want to find out more about your services. Where shall they come?
They can come onto Facebook, Jessica Killingley Coaching. I do a regular weekly book clinic. So if anyone's got any questions that they want about their book or how to get published, I also have a little Facebook group called Plan, Publish and Promote, where we definitely get into really kind of like quite detailed stuff. And, you know, if you ever want to come and talk about ISBNs, woohoo! My website is jessicakillingley.com. I think I'm Jessica Killingley on Instagram.
Brilliant. Well, I will add all the links officially into the show notes. But thank you so much for everything that you shared. I know it's going to be one of those juicy ones where, you know, people might be listening into the car and then going, "Oh God, oh no, I've heard it now. I need to go and write this book."
You do,
because nobody's going to give you permission. Nobody's going to say, "Now is your time."
But listen, do you know what? One day you might open up Amazon and you might see somebody in your field who has written a book, and you just think, "Shit, I should have written that book."
Yeah, it's so annoying when that happens. Yeah.
So, you know, make your words count.
Yes, get scribbling. Thank you. Thank you
so much, Nikki.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.